Jolly G mentioned as well that, you know, my passion and something that Harish and I both have been working for a long, long time, probably more than a decade, something very close to our hearts is the Australia-India relationship. And maybe I should quote Shah Rukh Khan from Veer Zara when he said, "Jaisa desh hai tera, vaisa desh hai mera." So this is, you know, the way you feel about us, we feel about you. You were talking about learning things from us, but I think it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
We have a lot to learn from you as well. And Harish Ji mentioned that our relationship with Jolly Ji goes back when they were government in waiting. We're doing the same thing, so we know the feeling completely. And actually, I was with Ram Madhav Ji today, the General Secretary, and he was saying, you know what's happening with your party, with the political situation. I said, look, everyone started calling Australia 7-11 because we've had 7 prime ministers in 11 years. And he said, okay, so what's happening with the election? Do you think you're going to win? I said, look, sir, it's just like, you know, shadi pakki hogi hai, like with the election, but pyari baki hai. So hopefully we come back while we're in government. The other thing I really wanted to say is I thank you all for being here. You are doing such an amazing job being part of the Delhi Study Group. Because as I say, the Delhi Study Group is not only nation building or community building, it's character building. And Jolly Ji, I think, has been the driving force behind this dream chaser, hope creator, and change maker. So thank you so much for all the work that you do. All of you. We'd love to see you in Sydney and Melbourne, and hopefully keep working on the relationship. But also the Indian Ocean. So no longer at the bottom of the world, but strategically placed in the Indo-Pacific. And here's some statistics for you, which pretty sure you probably don't know. 1 in 50 Australians, so 1 in 50 Australians were born in India. Over the last decade, the number of Indian Australians has tripled, and there are more than 30 million Indians living outside of India, the biggest diaspora in the world. I think that's a huge achievement which we all should clap and applaud. So this is just how much effect you and impact you have not only in your region obviously but around the world. And Australia has more Indian residents per capita than any other country in the OECD. And in fact, over the last few years, India has actually overtaken China as being the largest source of permanent residents in Australia. So again, you know, you're not only making a mark in the region, but internationally. And we're very proud of that. And we're proud of the contributions that Indians make to every facet of Australian society. The western suburbs, as Jolly Ji mentioned, where Mr. Clare represents, is the birthplace of 2 very famous Australians, Paul Keating and Steve Waugh. So as he mentioned, one was a Prime Minister and the other one was the captain of the Australian cricket team, probably the 2 most important jobs in the whole world and in Australia. PM and cricket captain. Actually, and Steve Waugh has also recognised the importance of India. He's actually set up Waugh Global, which is a property business throughout India, and he caters to NRIs especially. It is also home to a large and growing population of Indian Australians, and this is Mr. Clare's electorate, where 56% of the people there in Jason's electorate, Mr. Clare's electorate, were born overseas. So that's a lot. And a lot of those people are actually from India and Asia. So this is a really extraordinary thing at an extraordinary time. And infants there in Australia are actually a living bridge between our 2 countries. And it's still, though, something largely underappreciated and untapped. And I will be frank and say that there is a lot more that we can do between our 2 countries, and that's why we're really looking forward to coming into government where we can work with the Land Foundation, Jolly Ji mentioned, with Prime Minister Modi, and hopefully a Labour government. The point I want to make today is that while the Indian diaspora in Australia over the last few years has boomed, the same thing unfortunately hasn't happened with trade. And Jolly Ji mentioned again some of the statistics. Australia's two-way trade with India is about the same as for mentoring program with the Australian Institute of Company Directors, so we can give kids directly. And today Jason wanted to add to that. In addition to implementing the top 10 key recommendations of the Varghese report, a future Labour government will also increase the number of trade missions we run to India, and this is something we're highly committed to. Instead of every 2 years, they'll be run every year. And as Trade Minister, Mr. Clerc himself will personally visit India at least once a year, targeting those destinations Peter Varghese draws attention to. So that doesn't mean just Delhi or Mumbai, where we need to be and when. And if the Indian government agrees, we will also establish an internship program for Australian professionals to gain commercial experience in India, working for an Indian company for up to 6 months. So that's another very good initiative. They can learn a lot about the food, the culture, and your hospitality. So it'll be a reciprocal deal, basically. The idea is simple. Companies are more likely, basically, to invest in new markets and export into new markets if they're run by people who have worked there. That's the most important thing. If they're run by people who've worked there and they know how the market works. And we know that includes, having some kind of cultural understanding as well as business. In the next few weeks, the Australian Labor Party will also be announcing more parts to their Future Asia plan. Again, I would like to apologise on behalf of Mr. Clare that he is, unable to make it here today. But I hope that I've been able to shed some light into what we did want to express and share with you all today. Not only is the Australian Labor Party thinking of fertile ground between Australia and India, no one knows which seeds to plant. I think we've come a long way. I think we've found some of the seeds, be it the Varghese report or the Bob Hawke report, or Labor's Future Asia policy. But I guess it depends really how we nurture those seeds. But I can assure you that the Australian Labor Party will be using all its fertiliser and its water to make sure that we give full bloom to the Australian-India relationship. And look, it really reminds me, I think we're at a very critical crossroads, critical juncture between the two countries and our relationship. The best way I can describe it, and the way it should be, is one of my most favourite quotes by Anna Nin, which goes like this. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a fire was more painful than it took to blossom. So basically what I'm trying to say is that, the only way forward is for our relationship to blossom, and hopefully we look forward to working with Jollibee, with Mayor Saab, with Prime Minister Modi, to making sure that happens, and that our relationship comes full circle and full bloom. Thank you so much for having me. And in terms of people links, I invite you all personally to come to